People doing extraordinary things to help others.
If he didn't do what he did, we would have died.
Heroic acts that have sometimes meant the difference between life and death.
And he was just crying, "Don't let me die, don't let me die, save me, save me."
Amazing acts of courage.
It was just a natural reaction. This guy needs help.
Captured on dash cams, CCTV, and mobile phones. Incredible stories from the UK.
He put his life at risk just to save me.
And across the world.
Mayday, mayday, mayday.
All the people that assisted with my rescues that day are my heroes.
We genuinely owe our lives to him.
Today on Saved on Camera. In Australia, an experienced bushwalker knows exactly what to do when he gets seriously injured after falling from a waterfall.
My leg had been totally snapped at the ankle. So I grabbed my walking poles, started to use them to splint my leg.
But he's out there alone. No one knows he's there, and he's just lost his only means of getting help.
In putting my phone in my pocket, I missed my pocket and my phone went straight in the creek. I have no way of telling anybody where I am, and now panic starts to rise in me.
In the UK, two 9-year-old boys are in danger of drowning under Blackpool's central pier at the start of the summer holidays, clinging to the razor-sharp girders with all their strength as the waves threaten to engulf them. A brave father of 3 risks his own life to save the boys, but can he reach them on time?
I didn't know where they were. I just could hear him crying. And he was just crying, "Don't let me die, don't let me die, save me, save me."
Can you contact Coast Guard, Northwest Ambulance? We could see members of the public had already gone into the water. We genuinely believed that day there would be numerous fatalities.
As one of the biggest storms to hit the UK and Ireland brought chaos to a coastal suburb of Dublin.
We'd never seen anything like that here before. There had been warnings on the radio about people swimming and reminding them, please don't.
But one local resident decided to chance it.
I just thought, she's not going in. Surely she's not going in.
And off the coast in the UK, a vintage plane with 2 people on board loses power. They're over the sea, but landing in water could be fatal.
Just heard the engine splutter.
Their only chance of survival is to find somewhere to land, and soon.
After the first splutter, then there was a failure, and that was the end of it.
In Queensland, Australia, a bushwalker's hike goes wrong on the side of a waterfall.
I start sliding and I just saw myself cartwheeling down the face of the waterfall.
Having suffered an injured arm and leg, the enormity of his plight soon sinks in.
I live by myself. I've told nobody where I am, and panic starts to rise in me.
Neil Parker was born in England, but raised on the other side of the world when his parents relocated the whole family to Australia. He's a native now, through and through, with a passion for the great outdoors.
I do a lot of off-track walking and go places that nobody else has been to, or very few people have been to.
Neil's sister Dawn, who lives several hours away, has mixed feelings about this particular hobby.
As a family, have always been a bit concerned, but at the same time I know that he has built up his skills and he is really good with taking care of himself. Where he does his bushwalking, there's no internet service, so I just know he's gone in and I know that he's come out.
One Sunday morning, Neil heads off alone on one of his favourite 3-hour hikes.
That day was just the perfect day to be out walking, and feeling really confident that, I'll be out in an hour and a half.
To complete the hike, he needs to scale the side of a waterfall.
I get to the base of what I know is the biggest waterfall on this walk. It's curved, but vertical, but it's got lots of handholds and footholds. I reach the point 2/3 of the way up to the waterfall and I start sliding, looking for grabs, finger grips, jug holds, anything to halt my momentum from sliding. I just saw myself cartwheeling down the face of the waterfall. I've hit the water, I've come to the surface. I start swimming, but one of my legs doesn't seem to be playing the part, and I realised I was badly injured. My leg had been totally snapped at the ankle. So I grabbed my walking poles, started to use them to splint my leg. I looked at my wrist, I had a long sleeve shirt on, but it just felt like it was sprained, so I wasn't overly worried. I got my phone out, turned it on, only to find out I had no range. So I thought I'll put my phone in my pocket and I'll try and make my way 30 or 40 feet down the creek. In putting my phone in my pocket, I missed my pocket and my phone went straight in the creek. I have no way of telling anybody where I am, and now panic starts to rise in me. I live by myself. I've told nobody where I am. The first person that's going to notice I'm missing is my boss Monday morning when I don't turn up for work.
Stranded, with no communication in the middle of the Australian forest, with no one looking for him, things are looking bad.
It's getting dark and I think I now have to find somewhere to bunker down for the night.
Later, Neil's hope of a rescue quickly fades.
This is not the right location for these guys to be able to find me at night, and I'm under deep canopy.
In Blackpool, in the UK, two 9-year-olds are desperately clinging on for life under the pier with the tide rising above their heads. The boys were so far underneath that they couldn't be seen, but luckily for them, a security guard heard their cries and raised the alarm.
CCTV to control. They've had a report from security at Central Pier of two young boys in the sea.
Whiskey Alpha 26 acknowledged the last. Could we have patrol start making, please? Central Pier. Can you contact Coast Guard, Northwest Ambulance and RNLI lifeboat, please?
In the police station, Sergeant Matt Walters watched the CCTV footage feed from the town cameras with mounting concern.
The CCTV control room made us aware that they'd had a report from security staff at the pier that there was two young boys in difficulty in the sea underneath the pier. It was just impossible to actually see anyone, which obviously made me and my colleagues here really concerned that there was two boys who weren't going to be getting out of the water that day. It only takes one wave to slam you into that structure and knock you unconscious.
Sergeant Walters can only wait and watch as the emergency services rush to the scene. The boys had been in the water for several minutes, buffeted by the waves, getting colder and colder. One of the people who noticed the unfolding drama was Paul Adams, who was on a day out with his family.
It was the security guards what I saw running down the beach at first. I was like, it's a bit strange. Some of our family members are down at the sea. When they came back, they said, oh, there's two boys under the pier, they're stuck. And at this time, one of the security guards had tried going and getting him. He came out and he was just saying it was too rough, he couldn't get to them. I just thought, me being a father as I am, I have to try. Just every now and again you could hear them crying when the waves had died down a little bit. It was something I had to do.
Under the pier, the boys were being thrown against the sharp girders as the sea became rougher and rougher.
You know, the adults were up to sort of chest and neck height at some points, and the waves were going over them. Yeah, we genuinely believed that day there would be numerous fatalities.
After multiple attempts, the security guard had failed to reach the boys. But Paul tried a different approach.
I didn't go swimming in like everyone did first. What I did, I walked in and I was bouncing over the waves till the point where I couldn't do it, where I couldn't touch the floor, and then I had to swim. But I stayed back a little bit and then I went again. And just let the waves die down a little bit to go in further and further every time.
The Coast Guards were on their way, but still hadn't reached the boys. Paul was getting nearer, but time was quickly running out.
I didn't know where they were. I just could hear them crying. And he was just crying, "Don't let me die, don't let me die, save me, save me."
Hi, you alright?
Yeah.
Did you have a good day at school?
Mhm.
What do you want to do? Do you want to make some butties for tomorrow?
Yeah.
For your packed lunch?
Yeah.
The Kitson family had recently relocated to the seaside town of Blackpool.
We'd just moved to the area. We're just finding our feet.
And Mum Claire was relieved that the children were adjusting to life here, including 9-year-old Isaac.
Isaac came home from school one evening with a little note asking was he allowed to stay at his friend's house. I was apprehensive because Isaac's never had a sleepover before anywhere, but I was also overjoyed because he obviously had this bond with this little boy. So he was jumping for joy. And then we gave him his tea. I walked him round to his little friend's house. I can't wait, Mum, I can't wait. I'm going to have a sleepover. And I had a little chat with Mum, and I'll see him tomorrow morning.
But the next morning, the children's plans for a fun day out were to take a disturbing turn.
I had a phone call off his friend's mum telling me that she couldn't see the children outside, but not to worry because they are on the bikes and, you know, they'll be back soon. Have they made the way up to me? I hadn't seen them, so I had to say, obviously, no, I haven't seen them, but I'll have a little look at the park, which I did. I went down and had a look. I couldn't find them. As I heard nothing else, presumably everything was fine.
But young Isaac would never forget what was to happen that day.
We wanted to go out and play some football and ride on our bike. We saw these two boys I didn't know my friend did, and he said for us to follow them. I didn't know where I was going, I was just following them.
Isaac and his new friends ended up at the beach, where their games became more dangerous and involved going into the water.
We walked over, we put our feet in up to our shins, and then there was a big wave, and then the wave took me over and then pushed me back out. I couldn't swim, and the waves were proper strong.
With both boys unable to swim, they were now stranded and in extreme danger.
We could see members of the public had already gone into the water, wading in the low tide, looking for these boys. It's very brave. Going in the sea at any time, whether the water's calm or rough, is dangerous.
But Paul was determined to save the boys.
It was rough, but I was doing it and I was coming out with all of us.
Isaac and his friend were struggling to hang on any longer as the cold and the buffering took its toll.
I was panicking and I kept on bobbing up and down. 3 seconds down, 2 seconds up, and kept on struggling, feeling like I might die.
Later, Paul knows the boys are minutes away from drowning and he needs to act fast.
And he was just crying, "Don't let me die, don't let me die, save me, save me."
In Ireland, a woman ignores warnings to stay out of the sea during a ferocious storm.
I just thought she was going to just maybe dip her foot in and turn back, but she didn't. She went in.
Prompting a dramatic race to save her. Dublin in Ireland is known for its enchanting coastline, and it's home to Fiona Dunley and her family.
I moved back from Manhattan and discovered this area, and thankfully met my lovely husband, and we bought this house and we've raised our children here. They go to the local school.
And there's an added bonus to the area.
We have the sea. It's just incredible. Every day the colours are different, the sea is different. I just love watching it, just staring at it, swimming in it. I just love it.
It's also where Dublin lawyer Philip Lee takes his exercise.
I swim every weekend, so I walk down to Sandy Cove. So it's a lovely area to wander with the dogs or with friends. Terribly pretty to look at and it's awe-inspiring. It's lovely.
Both ended up involved in a dramatic rescue during one of the UK and Ireland's recent infamous storms.
Middle of a storm, beast from the east. We'd never seen anything like that here before. There was no cars on the road. There was nobody out. It was a complete shutdown. We'd had a couple of days indoors, but after about 3 days of that, we'd started to get cabin fever, so I suggested we go for a walk.
Not far away, Philip and his family had the same idea.
I wandered down with my daughter Lara and my wife Una down to the 40-foot because I am fascinated by the sea.
The 40-foot is one of Ireland's most famous outdoor swimming spots. It's a headland in Sandy Cove, County Dublin, and it's attracted swimmers there for 250 years.
You will get literally thousands swimming in that same venue, snow or rain or hail. So to see somebody swimming in the very cold weather is not in the least bit unusual.
But with the might of the beast from the east, this was not the day for a dip.
There had been warnings on the radio that morning about people swimming and reminding them, please don't.
As Fiona was about to discover, one lady's radio had clearly been on the blink.
We got as far as the seafront and it was really windy, the sea was crazy, so the kids just wanted to turn back. I decided to go on because I wanted to see, take some photographs, take some videos of the sea. Just out of the corner of my eye, I see a lady starting to walk down towards the water, and I just thought, she's not going in, surely she's not going in. And so I kept filming.
By this stage, Philip's walk had taken him down to the same place.
I saw a woman in the little harbour. And I suddenly saw her move out to the exit of the harbour.
It was obvious, the waves, they were just starting to pull her. And she wasn't strong enough.
Anybody in that sea did not have a possibility of survival.
It was really scary. That lady was in serious danger.
Philip knew he needed to do something.
Immediately I go, let's get a life ring and let's get her. If she can hold a life ring, she can be pulled in against any tide. Swimming, once you're in the maelstrom, you don't have a chance. Two other gentlemen actually had a ring in their hands and they were very close to her and they threw the ring to her then. She couldn't grab that ring, so I then threw the ring immediately because time was going to be critical.
Luckily, this man took over and he moved so quickly.
I threw the ring and the ring landed past her. She was then pulled towards the rope and she grabbed the rope.
It was incredible that he was there at that moment.
Another gentleman also grabbed the rope that I threw, and we both then pulled the rope until she grabbed the ring. So we steadily pulled her in, and then she came in towards the slip. We then got down to the slip, dropped to her knees, but just make sure she got the last bit and helped her onto the slip. And then she ran, obviously, to get herself warm and dressed.
It was an awful thing to witness, but I'm so glad she was okay.
And with the woman unharmed, for Philip, who had acted so quickly, recognition for his heroics came later that day.
By the time I got home, I then went out for a drink that evening, and total strangers in the pub came up and said, "Oh, are you the person that rescued that woman in the sea?" And I was a bit taken aback by that, but pleasantly taken aback. No one objects to being thanked for doing something.
A vintage airplane is in trouble over the UK coastline with 2 people on board. The engine has stalled and they're falling out of the sky. The pilot needs to make an emergency landing, but the only option is on a beach full of holidaymakers.
So I braced myself and just hoped for the best, but I actually thought, OK, this is where we're going to land.
Zach Rocky is a 47-year-old airplane enthusiast from Devon and has been flying planes for 17 years.
Passion for flying goes back a very, very long time, since literally before I can remember. It's what I'm about. I love it. I love how they work. I love how they operate. I've got to understand how they operate, aerodynamics, what keeps them in the air, and I always knew I was going to fly.
One of Zach's favourite planes is this vintage 1930s French light aircraft.
I love the look of it when it's together. It's a head turner. It's a nice machine to be in. It makes you feel quite good about yourself being inside it, in the military colour scheme as well. It's an open cockpit aircraft, and just to be bimbling around over the Devon countryside, looking out the window, counting swimming pools is wonderful.
Trudy Spiller is also a vintage aviation enthusiast from Devon and has been flying with Zach for 3 years.
I will do any adventure, I will go anywhere and try everything once. Zach normally is quite a wacky, off-the-wall character, full of beans, a joker, just fun to be around. But when he gets into the aeroplane, he's a mature Zach, and you feel safe in his hands, and he's very professional.
The pair had made plans to visit a special vintage air show.
I'd been invited by Bodmin Airfield. There was an event going on down there, and they were marking the end of World War I. Asked if I'd like to go down. I've known Trudy for quite a while, and I phoned her up and said, it's actually going, the weather looks fantastic, I will be taking it there, would you like to come along? And she said, yes, please, let's go and do it. She hadn't had an open cockpit experience before. She really wanted to have that experience and come along for the day.
They set off from their hometown in Branscombe, enjoying the flight in the open cockpit plane.
I was never once nervous. A lot of people will say, no, I'm not going up in one of those. But for me, I didn't think like that.
The conditions were really good, actually. It was the first sunny bank holiday of the year, and it was incredibly sunny throughout the whole weekend. We got really, really lucky with the weather.
So we got the sort of lunchtime and hung out. You literally show off your planes. There are numerous others, other people with them there. And then we thought, nearing 4 o'clock, we thought we'd decide we'd head on back.
So, after an enjoyable day at the air show, the pair set off on the flight home.
And on a bit of a scenic trip, was gently make our way back and taking the whole Jurassic coastline all the way. It was stunning. It's a beautiful flight home.
Everything was well, we were enjoying it.
But things take a dramatic turn on the final stretch of the journey.
Just heard the engine splutter once and thought, OK, he's just slowing down maybe because we're going to have to go up on an incline soon.
I first noticed it, I think, same time as Trudy did, actually. It was around about as we came round the edge of Budley Salterton. I put on more power for the climb out. It didn't do what it was supposed to do. It didn't increase the RPM as I was expecting it to. And then I started to think, though, there's an anomaly here. So I put in full power, and it didn't quite do what I wanted to do, so I backed off of that and just thought it would cruise on. And we did cruise on for a bit of a ways, and then there was a bit of a splutter.
Do you know that? On the beach? It's coasting.
And then after that, after the first splutter, then there was a failure, and that was the end of it.
Then it cut out completely. It just went silent, and then you're gliding. At that point, I looked back at Zach and said, Zach, in a worried way. He didn't answer.
We couldn't talk to each other, obviously.
There was nothing I could do to help.
At the point of complete failure, the best reaction, and my own instinctive one, which I was quite happy about, is don't panic. That's pretty much the best thing to do at that point. Panicking is not going to help anybody.
It's at this moment that Zach has to make a snap decision. One wrong manoeuvre could end in disaster.
It started spluttering and I chose somewhere. Then I did what I could, and then when everything failed, I already had a plan. Because getting it wrong can either kill me or somebody on the ground. Inland was not an option. It looked uncomfortable. There was a lot of trees, forestation.
All Zach can do now is head for the nearest strip of land, a beach.
It doesn't sound good, does it?
No, he's landing on the beach.
So I braced myself and just hoped for the best.
But yeah, after some seconds, you see if it's settled quite nicely into its glide. I was like, okay, yeah, I can make this. It was at low tide, so it was a nice sandy area there. Good runway, so to speak. As I got closer, there was a couple of people that I spotted.
I could clearly see there were people on the beach, about a handful, and with that I could see they were looking up to us and coming towards us with their mobile phones on, probably thinking, oh, this is wonderful, they're doing a nice low a flyover or something.
I think I need to...
Wow.
Later, Zach faces one of the biggest challenges in his life when he makes an emergency landing. Meanwhile, back in Blackpool in the UK, two boys stranded in the Irish Sea, fighting for their lives and desperately praying for help.
I thought I was strong, but the waves were obviously stronger than me. I was thinking, I'm gonna die.
Then, Isaac made one last effort to save himself as he remembered something his mum had taught him.
She taught me kick your legs and hold on to something.
Luckily, the pier leg was within his grasp.
We grabbed onto the thing what holds the pier up. I told my friend to keep on moving along so there's more people that side so they could try and help.
Spurred on by the boys' cries for help, Paul was all the more determined to get further into the water and to rescue the boys.
I didn't know where they were. I just could hear them crying, and I noticed Isaac being on the outside of the pier, so I got him first. Isaac was holding on to the pier leg, and I said, right, come on, we're going now.
For Isaac, it was looking like his nightmare might be coming to an end.
He picked me up and then brought me along.
Isaac held on to me like he never wanted to let go of me, like. He just couldn't let go of me. He'd held on so tight. When I came out with Isaac, I gave him straight to Paul, who's part of our family.
With Isaac safe, Paul went straight back in to help rescue the other boy.
As I got to the other lad, I had to swim out to him because he was a lot further out. He tried grabbing me straight away, and I'm like, just 1 minute, let me just get my breath. Got my breath, I went, right, come on, we go. But I've come back out and there was someone in the water who took over the second child.
The second man was the security guard who had raised the alarm. The boys had narrowly escaped death because of the bravery of those involved.
Had the security guard not heard the cries for help, had there not been security working that day on the pier, had it been a bit of a quieter day in Blackpool midweek maybe, we genuinely felt from watching the footage that it would have been a different story had them members of the public not acted.
We stayed on the beach for a little bit longer, sat there talking about what had happened, and everyone was like, I can't believe you just done that. I'm like, no, neither can I. It It was a few days after it actually hit me that I'd saved 2 boys from drowning. So, yeah, and I actually cried.
In the Australian Outback, a bushwalker finds himself in serious trouble after falling from a waterfall.
I was badly injured. My leg had been totally snapped at the ankle.
Worse still, nobody knows he's out there.
Panic starts to rise in me. I've told nobody where I am.
But the alarm was raised when he didn't show up for work the next day, and his sister Dawn received a call.
On the day that I found out that he hadn't turned up for work, I was at work myself, and I knew straight away that something is wrong. The lady beside me at work, I just went up to her and touched her on the arm, and I said, "My brother's missing." She took me to the nearest police station. They took all the details. The police helicopter went out, but they didn't find anything. That night, I did feel that maybe he might have died.
The next morning, police handed the search over to Air Rescue, a division of the Queensland Government. Greg Pier was on duty.
He didn't have an emergency locator beacon with him, so we weren't getting any signals. It was really a needle in a haystack.
In the Outback, Neil knew he would need to play a part in his own rescue. He had already crawled over 3 kilometres of terrain with a broken leg, but he must push on and find a clearing.
I dragged myself the last 50 metres across the rocks to the gravel road track.
We were 10 minutes from deciding to go back to base and refuel, where our rescue crew officer in the back of the helicopter sighted something. It was Neil, and he had a colourful type jacket, and amazing that we saw him.
And he flew straight across overhead, and I thought, hallelujah. Elation, I guess still now, it's still a very teary moment to realise that I've been found and all my effort to get to this location has worked.
Time was critical. We set up for the winch then. It was quite a tight area to put our guys into.
When the helicopter came back to load me into the stretcher, and then when the stretcher was taken off and I was in heaven, I thought, wow, I've been rescued, I'm going home.
Neil's ordeal is finally over, and his family received the news they've longed for.
They found him. It's such a relief. We just went straight up to emergency, and straight away someone let us know that he was all good, that he has badly broken his leg and his arm, but she told us that he managed to drag himself to a clearing that was 3 kilometres from where he had fallen. It just blew me away.
And when I woke up, my sisters were there. It was bloody fantastic to see them and be able to give them all a hug and a kiss and thank them all for being there.
Back in the UK, Zach Rocky and his friend Trudy had been on their way back home when their vintage aircraft suddenly lost power.
Heard the engine splutter.
The time has run out and they can't avoid an emergency landing.
Something wrong. People, you better clear the beach.
But they're heading towards the beach and a difficult approach.
So it was a sudden bang and then boom, boom, boom along some other rocks and the sand.
The left wingtip's very, very close to the pebbles, a lot closer than I thought it was going to be.
Wow.
Touched the left wheel down first because it was a real steep slope, and that really sunk into the stones. It's almost like a quickstones instead of quicksand. I wondered initially whether it was going to grab the wheels and flip us over. Massively adrenaline at that point.
And when we'd actually landed, I think that's when it all hit home. What I'd perhaps been through was the enormity of it.
I was bizarrely unfazed. And then getting out after, sort of got a bit of jelly legs. I was like, oh my God. Judy and I walked back up the landing to get away from people. To the point of touchdown, almost kissed the ground. Thanks for letting me back on.
People on the beach are quick to alert the Coast Guard, and station manager Terry Waugh is the one who took the call.
Our initial tasking came in as a ditched aircraft on Jacob's Ladder Beach, and that's all we had to start with. It is very vague. You're thinking all the way down, I think, oh, what are we doing? Have they crashed? Are there injuries? Until you get there, you don't actually know what you've got. I could see with binoculars that the two people were out of the aircraft. That was great. The aircraft was still in one piece and upright, which is something we didn't know about until we got there. It could have been upside down. Check that there's no injuries as such. Also checking for shock. The pilot seemed fine, but the passenger was a bit quiet. So we just talked to the passenger, make sure she's okay. If the tide had been in, he wouldn't have been able to get down onto the beach. There wouldn't have been enough room. If it had been midsummer, there would have been too many people on the beach. He wouldn't have come down then. Probably his only option would have been to ditch in the sea. The incident could have turned bad very quickly. If he ditched in the sea, there would have been injuries, possible fatalities.
What started out as a fun day out for a pair of aviation enthusiasts ended up in a major rescue operation that could have been so much worse.
I think I've since realised how precious life is and every day matters. Never been in danger before, so this is the first, hopefully last experience.
When you go to an incident and you get a good outcome like that, nobody's injured, it's a good feeling.
The availability of the beach was literally still wind. We could not have put together a better scenario for it to have gone wrong. We got lucky.
Thankfully, no one was injured, and even the plane survived intact. Today, 6 months after their crash landing, Trudy and Zach meet up with Terry the Coast Guard, who rescued them off the beach.
Terry.
How are you?
Terry, nice to see you again. You too, sir. You too. Remember Trudy?
How are you?
Yeah.
Just, I can remember. I don't think I'll ever forget it.
Was you expecting to see this sort of an aeroplane there?
No,
there you go, yeah.
When you see plane, I think, oh my God, we got a passenger airline.
That's right, yeah, quite.
Amazing bit of flying. Because you wouldn't have known until you got down level with the beach, the sort of slope on the beach, would you?
No, I was hoping for the sand. I was aiming for the sand. Right. That was the flattest part. Yeah. But the 4 or 5 people that were there, they went to the shoreline. So it was like, I can't do that anymore. Stones. But yeah, we got away with that one. Beach wheels, that's what I call them from now on. I do. Yeah, there's not many aircraft I think I could have actually made that with, apart from this one. In fairness, yeah, some of the other things I've flown, they weren't going to manage that, not at all.
When I heard the engine cut out, that was all. That's when I knew that wasn't right, you know, and the spluttering. So, you know, I sat there, and not at any point did I think, oh, this is it, I'm going to die. I knew Zach would get it down. I really kind of phased out, and that was my first experience of shock, probably.
Yeah, it's like you said, you were in shock. You just wanted to sit down, and everything comes flooding back to you, what you've just done and what you've just been in.
Yeah, and I was shaking. And when I first I went on a flight again with Zach, that stomach, the feeling came back, to be honest.
Yeah. Are you having fun, though?
Oh, fun.
And she went over and touched the airplane and gave it a little stroke. And I even said I offered her if she wanted to go flying again. I think she might do. She might do, in this aeroplane.
Maybe one day I'll sit in as a passenger again.
Earlier, we saw 9-year-old Isaac saved from drowning under Blackpool's Central Pier. Now fully recovered, Isaac and his mum have forged a bond with Paul, the man who carried him to safety.
Hey up.
Hi, Paul.
And they meet up on a regular basis.
All right. You good?
Yeah.
You all right, yeah?
Yeah.
Good.
How are you doing?
Bit mad being back here.
Yeah, but it feels strange, doesn't it?
It does. It does a little bit, yeah.
Well, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be sitting here with Isaac.
Yeah.
I think it was a brave thing you did, risking your own life when you've got your own family. You know, you just went in and got them, and I can't thank you enough for doing that. That's going above and beyond.
The main thing was getting you out.
Yeah.
I can't sort of comprehend the fear that obviously the children must have been going through, and the relief when they saw you, you know, coming in for them.
The sound of the children crying, it
was enough to prompt you to go in for them.
You could tell they were scared when I got to them. They wouldn't let go, and all they kept saying is, "Don't let me die," and stuff like that. And I weren't planning to. Like, looking down now and seeing children in the water, the parents are nearby, but they don't understand how quick the tide comes in. That day the tide came in so quick, it was unreal. Think a little bit more about if I couldn't have got to them, what would have happened, and then I went through a point where I was thinking, perhaps I might not come back out.
Yeah.
There'd been 3 of us.
Very scary.
How do you feel about being down here?
It's alright, but I'm still got a fear of the water. But
It'll take time, but just a little bit at each time, innit?
Yeah. Thank you for saving me.
You're welcome. Just don't go playing in the sea.
I don't think he's going to play in the sea again, are you? Hey.
An extraordinary decision taken in a split second on Blackpool Beach by Paul changed the fate of 2 little boys forever.
I'd never done anything like this before, or anything like that. It's not like something like I'm a superhero or anything like that. It's actually hit me a little bit talking about it, that it were that close to, if I weren't there, they wouldn't be here now.
Overwhelming, grateful, emotional to the man that pulled Isaac out, and thankful that I can spend the rest of my life now with my son.
Paul's heroic actions on that day mean all 3 now share a bond that will last a lifetime.